Now that we've talked about creating structure within your XHTML, let's examine how to use Dreamweaver to quickly structure our content. In this exercise, we'll take our index file, which here has been stripped down to its bare bones, and add meaning to the text by formatting it within specific tags. If you're following along in your exercise files with me, I've got the index_start page open. It would be easy to look at this file and say that it doesn't have any structure at all right now, but that wouldn't be exactly true. If I click inside this first line of text, for example, I can use Dreamweaver's tag selector to see if it's currently inside of a tag. The tag selector is located at the very bottom of the document, right here on the far left-hand side. As you can see, it's sitting inside of a paragraph. You can think of a paragraph as Dreamweaver's default tag. If you begin typing and hit enter, so let me just go ahead and type some more, and hit enter, I get a brand new empty paragraph to hold our next line. Now I'm just going to go ahead and undo that because I don't need any of that typing for our site. While that's great, we'll often need more than just paragraphs to define our content. Let's restructure the page using Dreamweaver's Properties Inspector. So again, I'm going to click inside the first line, Welcome to Groundswell. This needs to be a heading one. It's the main heading on my site. So if I go down to my Properties Inspector, I'm going to click on the HTML tab so that I'm looking at the HTML properties of that. And this is another very quick way to figure out whether or not your cursor inside of an element has a specific tag. You can see here it's telling us that this is formatted as a paragraph. Well, I'm going to go ahead and grab the pull down menu, and there are all my headings. There's my paragraph, and I'm going to choose H1. Now, before I do that, a lot of people ask me this question about pre-formatted and what that means. That actually wraps the content in a pre tag, which causes browsers to display the text in a monospaced font and retain any line breaks or white space that the text might have naturally. It's really good for displaying computer code or scripting examples, and that's primarily what it's used for. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose heading 1. The text resizes, but nothing really has happened to it visually other than the fact that as I click inside of it, now I can see using the tag inspector that instead of a paragraph tag, it's now inside of an H1. Let's do some additional restructuring. I'm going to scroll down and find a line that says latest news. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to format that as a heading 2. So it's not quite as important as the main heading, but it's pretty important, so it's going to get an H2. If I examine these paragraphs in a little bit more detail, I can see that Simon Craven wins the Maui Invitational and Velocity releases a new board. Those are kind of subheadings in and of their own right. So what I'm going to do is click right after them and hit enter. That gives me a brand new paragraph. So even clicking inside of an existing paragraph and hitting enter will split that content into 2 separate paragraphs rather than keeping it in one. I'll click inside the Simon Craven one, and I'm going to format that as a heading 4. I'll do the same thing for the Velocity releases new board. Go ahead and do that as well. You might be wondering why we used an H4 here instead of an H3. In terms of importance, it would seem to be logical that we've already used an H1 and we've used it to H2, so you might think an H3 should be used here instead. Well, in fact, an H3 doesn't fit the structure that we've decided for our site. All of our main content areas will have 3 levels of headings. H1 will only be used if there's a main heading that comes at the top of the content. H2s will be used for every other main heading. H3s will be used for subheadings, for articles. And finally, H4s will be used for a single paragraph subheadings. And that's what we're finding here. By coming up with a logical structural framework early on in the process, we can make sure that all our pages use this consistent structure. Our page is on its way, but clearly it's not quite done yet. Next, we'll explore another fundamental structural element by working with lists.